Hello, my beautiful cuddlebugs. Welcome to Ramblings of a Book Dragon, where we dive into the warmth of good books and unravel stories that feel like a literary hug. I'm Ellie, your host, and I'm thrilled to embark on another cozy adventure with you. So grab a cup of your favorite beverage, snuggle into your cozy reading nook, and let's begin. But before we do, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe so that you won't miss a single episode. I really value your feedback and book recommendations. Now let's begin. Today I am reviewing Tomb of the Sun King. I had actually received an arc of this, which was very exciting. This was my first, and it was written by Jacquelyn Benson and performed by Alex Picard in return for my review. And this was an arc of the actual audio book before it was released just this past week. So I was able to listen to it, and I wanted to just give my thoughts and overview of the book. I have also written my rambly review, and so that is available as well. But I found it really interesting because I read the book first because I wasn't sure when the audiobook was going to come out, and it's like, okay, let's read it first since the book is out, and Audible wasn't showing when the actual audiobook was going to be released, and so it was all very weird, and I didn't think to check Jacquelyn Benson's actual website. And then when I was looking for the arc of another book, it just popped up. I just thought, oh, let's check some other stuff that was going on, and I saw this one's like, oh, let's request it, and it was automatically approved. Who knew? Because I know I am definitely not getting the other one that I was wanting. I mean, I'm still on the waiting list for the other one, of course, but that would truly be a miracle if I got that one. And I got the arc from NetGalley, and the one that I am still waiting on from NetGalley was The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Bridget Knightley. And it's still showing that is a wait. And so we'll see what happens. I know that is like one of the most popular, which is rightly so. And that is so amazing for her because she also wrote Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love. And this is an original book written by her. And so I'm very excited to see where she takes her original writing and world building skills. But anyway, on to Tomb of the Sun King. And so we take up a few weeks after our first book, which was of the Raiders of the Lost Arcana series. And the first book, in case you forgot, was called Empire of Shadows. And they are now in the process of looking for the Staff of Moses. And they realize that her brother, Neil, may be involved. So they're going to Egypt, and they need to find Neil and let him know that, hey, his employers may be part of this evil organization. They still don't quite know who this organization is. They just know that they need to try to get to Neil and need to figure out where the staff is before Jacobs and the others get there. And as I was saying in my first review, I was really hoping that we would get more of Constance or even her own book, and we get her again because Connie and her parents came to Egypt because her father does a lot with money and just making sure that he's a bit of a pain in the butt of people because he just makes sure that everything is done the way it's supposed to be. And Connie's mother is Indian, and her grandmother is actually an Indian princess, and so she is related to Indian royalty, which is really cool. And so they're there, and Ellie had sent her a message, and I just love the way that we see them again, especially since she had this guy that was with her, this Mr. Majoud, who was supposed to be taking care of her and making sure that she didn't get into any trouble. And this is Connie we're talking about, so of course she's bound and determined to get into trouble. And meanwhile, we find out that her parents are wanting her to get married because she is at the ripe old age of 23. So that's what Ellie and Adam are getting themselves into. And then, of course, with Ellie and Adam, they're needing to figure out where they stand with each other, because Ellie doesn't want to get married because of her own principles. And Adam is like, okay, well, we need to tell your brother what happened. And he's feeling nervous, and he's wanting to make an honest woman out of her because of his own principles. But he also respects Ellie's choices. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. But I absolutely adored Adam's green flags. He is such a good man. And I just, especially later on, it's such good green flags. They're such a good couple, and I love the fact that like she is riding such a slow freaking burn, but at least we're making progress. And I really appreciated the fact that in this book, they're not being idiots. Like, they're being idiots. Don't get me wrong, but the way that they're being idiots makes sense, especially given the fact that, okay, they have their principles, but they're having these conversations, and Adam still has it in his head what his father was telling him, that he is good for nothing and he is a disgrace to the family. So he is telling Ellie that he has some things that he's needing to work on too. But instead of like in some books where he would keep it to himself and like push her away, he tells her that he needs some time as well. While they're like, they both know that they need to have a conversation. They need to figure out what they are to each other. She's thinking that they will be colleagues somehow or another, as silly as that may seem to some people. That's what she's thinking. But he's also like, we need to figure out what this is going to be. But they also have a conversation where they're like, I have some things that I'm needing to work on, but I need some time as well. And they both respect that about each other, that they are both needing to figure this out for themselves, which I thought was fantastic. Like, yes, they're continuing to develop that chemistry. Like, they've had some very kissy moments together on the route from South America to Egypt. They've had some very kissy moments, but they haven't done more yet. But they know that they first need to have a conversation with Neil, and then they more importantly need to have a conversation with each other. So I really like the way that she wrote that character development. They're not just being stubborn for stupid reasons or for the sake of being stubborn. They both have things that they need to figure out for themselves. And they have conversations, which I appreciate, because that's what drives me up the wall the most with romance novels, is when there is no conversation between the characters. But anyways, so they meet up with Connie, and they explain what's going on. Ellie explains to her what's going on. She's like, oh, well, of course, I'm going to go with you to find your brother, to find Sophie, because they all grew up together. And Neil is actually her stepbrother, because their parents got married. And what I love is that she calls Neil Stuffy because he was very stuffy, and he calls her a little he basically just calls her a little goblin, and it's just so cute. Well, he calls her a little danger gnome, and it's just too funny because she's diminutive. She's only 5 foot. But though she's little, she be fierce, as Shakespeare said. And he calls her Danger Gnome because she's done things as part of all these different plans. Like she wanted to recreate the fall of Troy, for instance, and she used his books and things as part of the burning down of Troy, essentially. Okay, we love it. And what I especially love is that they make their way to Neil's tomb that he's working on with his foreman. And he's just working away, and they see the bad guys, and Ellie and Adam both fall into where they both fly into the area where Neil is at. And Neil is just like, oh, hi, Ellie. Just like, what's going on? And he's just going back and just working on continuing to just work, because he's an archaeologist, and he's just continuing to work on this bit of this tomb. And it takes him way too long to realize, wait a minute, I'm in Egypt. Ellie's in Egypt. She's supposed to be in England. I love it. And then when Connie comes in, he's like, danger gnome, and he's freaking out, and like he makes some mistakes, and everyone's mad at him because they're trying to explain to Neil that there is magical artifacts. He's like, no, there's no such thing as magical artifacts. And it's nice to have that kind of moment, like, because Connie, and Ellie was also able to show her immediately how because she still had the Firebird bone. But unfortunately, she wasn't able to show Neil this bone. And by the time that would have been a great opportunity to show it, there were some incidences where it kind of rubbed off a little bit, like it got a little damaged, so she wasn't able to show the magic, so she wasn't able to prove to him. So, and Neil needs to be shown. So he's kind of thinking like, I need to protect my job. I need to protect this. This can't possibly be what all is going on. This can't be real. They must be going crazy. So he writes to the bad guys, letting them know where they're going, because there's this whole process of where they're trying to find the staff of Moses, and they're needing to figure that all out. And we're also getting these hints that Neil has a bit of magic in him, because when he was first finding the tomb that he was at, he was like, no, it's not at this spot. It's actually like 10 feet over there. And it's right there. And he continues to have these inklings, and he says like, no, it's intuition. It's not that big of a deal. But it's actually, I hope that that's something that she explores more in the third book, because they go to India in the third book. And I don't know if maybe this is just for Egypt, but it seems like Neil has some magic. And I wonder if it's just for Egypt, or if it's maybe an Arcana thing. I mean, but then again, he didn't really have any sort of connection to the bird bone anyway, so I don't know. But also, and I was going to mention that I was wondering if Ellie might have something, but they're also not related, so there isn't any sort of familial connection going on here. But Ellie also had a really great knack for finding the first one anyway, but that's also because of how that all came to her in the first place. So there is that whole process of finding the staff of Moses, and they also are looking for Neferata's, completely butchering that, lost tomb, and they make some connections that this pharaoh was actually Nefertiti, because she was a pharaoh, but she couldn't just rule in her own right as Nefertiti, as a pharaoh. And there's a lot that was going on there that I thought was really interesting. And they find an intact tomb, and they're like, okay, well, where is the staff? It's supposed to be a Waz scepter. It's like it has the dog, it has a head on it and stuff. And Neil is the one that finds it, because it kind of calls to him in a way, like it's his instincts that are talking to him. But I thought that this was just a fantastic book, and it was interesting because like what I was saying before with the book, it took me over a month to read it. But then when listening to the audiobook, it took me only 8 days. And as always, it really helped that Alex Picard was just fantastic with the way she narrated. And now that we have more people in the book as the main characters, I really like the way that she was able to distinguish between the different characters. And it was just fantastic, especially when Adam and Ellie were finally able to say, like, they were kind of sort of hinting that they were falling in love with each other, but they were finally actually able to say, I want to be with you. I want to see where this goes with you. And reading it was one thing. Like, that was just like, I was squealing and kicking my feet together and just so happy. Listening to it and the way that she was saying it really brought it to light, and just so happy. And what I love also is the way that Connie and Neil, like, he sees how beautiful Connie is, and she realizes, oh, Stuffy has some muscles to him, and yeah, he messed up, but he is learning. And I really liked the way that Connie was like, yeah, you messed up. It's okay. This was your first experience. You're learning, you're growing. It's not okay that this happened, but you'll learn it's okay. And she saved him a couple times and he saved her a couple times when they went into the Nile. And they it'll be interesting to see how this goes, especially since at the end of the book, her grandmother, her eye, she was kind of looking at Neil with glittering eyes, all calculating. It's like, oh, we know what that means. Grandma is going to be doing some finagling because she still wants Connie to get married. And so why not to a good man like Dr. Neil Fairfax? That'll be good. So neither one of them are quite ready to admit they even sort of like each other. They still call each other Stuffy and Danger Gnome. But at the very least, we have Adam and Ellie finally admitting to each other that they like each other. And who knows if they're going to get married, but I really like the way that they finally came together with that, because Saeed's wife was able to help Ellie even figure out, like, yeah, this is complicated, but that's marriage. Like, you're going to have these conversations. That is what is going to happen, and it's all perfectly fine and perfectly logical. Like, it's going to be difficult. Like, that's how relationships work. But you are in love with this man, and he is a very good man, and that's what I love, is he puts himself in danger for Ellie over and over and over, and it just all the squeaks and squeals worthiness. And again, it's the way that it was narrated. It was one thing to read it, but to listen to it all again. Oh, and then we finally also learn who the organization is. And we get some names, and it's a wee bit more complicated than we would have originally thought. It's all like the powerful elite families of England, and the whole point of this is to take these magical items from the colonies. It's very colonialism forward. We can't let the natives keep hold of their own magical artifacts. They could rise up and rise against us. How dare they? How dare they want to do that? We can't let them try to rebel. No, of course not. They want to keep them safe for the Empire, of course, and keep it out of the hand of those horrible people that are our subjects that we have conquered. So it's going to be, and I'm curious to see how she's going to continue to go with this, especially since now they're going to India, and the next book is going to be about them getting Ram's weapon from the Brahmastra, a weapon that was used by Lord Ram to overcome the Demon King Ravana when he stole away Ram's beloved wife Sita. It's a ball of fire that makes the mountains shatter where it burns. Not a single blade of grass will grow for 32 trillion years. So no biggie, but now they have to go to India to visit the Maharaja of Nandapur, Connie's second cousin. So that's going to be interesting, especially since now we're getting into, like, we already see the colonialism stuff. Like, we hear a lot of that, but now that we're going to go to India, this is going to be interesting. Like now they're, like, before it was kind of this idea of we need to stop this arcana, but it was kind of this vague idea. Now it's, hey, we need to stop this. This is a bad situation. We can't just let them do these bad things. We can't let them get a hold of these bad weapons. Bad things will happen if they do this. So it's going to be, I'm curious and I'm excited, but it's supposed to come out next year. And I am so excited to continue to see how the relationships develop between everyone and how that all continues to go. I gave it 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, all that good stuff. Highly recommend this series if you love a good adventure novel with a sprig of romance. And there was still good banter between the characters. And so it was all very good. So I will catch you next time. I hope you have a good rest of your day, my beautiful cuddlebugs. Bye.